At 28.8 north, 74.4 west. The latest position, this is the current update, 5 o'clock Eastern time, 225 miles northeast of Great Abaco Island in the Bahamas. Top sustained winds at 80. And Danielle moving northwest at 6. And in the last couple of satellite frames, it's actually moved a little northeast of north, as a matter of fact. And the pressure down to 980 millibars. That's substantially lower than it was 24 hours ago. So there's definitely been some intensification. And we've got a little jump in the satellite loop here, but you can get the general picture that there is a lot of thunderstorm activity wrapped around the very evident eye in Danielle. But here's the east coast of the United States, and as you can probably see, the hurricane is paralleling the coast, basically. Another perspective is Danielle right in this position. It is finally feeling the upper level jet stream winds, which are blowing through this region out of the southwest. And as a result, we do expect that turn to continue to take place. As a matter of fact, there is more of a threat now to the island of Bermuda, well off the coast of North Carolina, than there is to the eastern seaboard of the United States. So that's the way it stands concerning Hurricane Danielle at this time. Of course, Bonnie, off the satellite picture now, extratropical, and in the Gulf of Mexico, rapidly developing thunderstorms, falling air pressures at a steady pace, favorable conditions for tropical organization, high pressure aloft, very warm sea surface temperatures. This is an area we'll keep a very close eye on the next couple of days as low pressure begins to take shape down here. Elsewhere around the nation, it's pretty quiet for the most part across the south from Texas to Georgia. There's a little bit of rain northeast, and there's some heavy storms bearing down on you folks in Des Moines, Iowa. So stay with us as we watch those thunderstorms heading your way, and showers and storms diminishing in the southwest after a rainy night. This Storm Watch sponsored by Pella. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're watching some heavy storms now rumbling across Iowa, heading towards Des Moines at the moment. And just a little while ago, microburst winds were reported in Salt Lake City with a wind gust of 54 miles per hour at the Salt Lake City International Airport. More on that just ahead in Storm Watch. First of all, the tropical update and the current conditions, current readings, current info on Hurricane Danielle, located at, as of 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, at 28.8 north and 74.4 west, some 225 miles northeast of Great Abaco Island. Top sustained winds are 80, and Danielle has taken a little bit of a turn. The forward track now north-northwest at 6. We did expect that recurvature to take place. It is beginning now. That perhaps means that you folks on the eastern seaboard can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief at this point. The pressure 980 millibars, 28.94 inches of mercury. Colorized satellite picture. Compared to Sunday morning at this time, Danielle better organized. In one case, you can see a very well-defined eye and a fairly symmetrical but small area of convection around the center of circulation. If you remember yesterday, Danielle was moving west-northwest, and we were getting concerned because that change in direction of movement had not taken place yet, but it has taken place now. And Danielle, in the last couple of hours, has actually moved a little bit east of north in its track. And once again, the official track takes it up through this region about midway between Cape Hatteras and the island of Bermuda, although the official forecast is getting a little farther right in the track each time. So there's perhaps, the way it seems, a little bit more of a threat to Bermuda and the east coast of the United States. At any rate, we'll watch it. And at this time, unless something dramatic happens in the next 24 hours, it would appear that the only significant effect from Danielle on the east coast will be high surf, rip tides, and rip currents. You see the jet stream winds are blowing in right through here, and Danielle is feeling the effects of them, beginning to change that direction and should zoom off to the northeast eventually, just like Bonnie, which has exited the satellite picture this morning. So with that in mind, We go to the eastern Atlantic, where we have the usual tropical disturbances coming off the continent. This is the mid-Atlantic, the islands in here. Puerto Rico is right in here, Virgin Islands. So we've got clusters of storms. This is a tropical wave, could be developing over the next couple of days. Different perspective of Danielle. Well east of Florida, well east of the Georgia and Carolina coast. It is not expected to have a significant impact other than heavy surf and riptides if you're just joining us. Meantime, in the Gulf of Mexico, possible developments here out at the buoys in the Gulf and the Bay of Campeche. Pressures are falling steadily. The sea surface temperatures out here are 90 degrees and the winds aloft are light. There's high pressure. So it would appear, and all the computer models or charts suggest, let's say, that rapid development of something is going to take place here during the next 12 hours. How significant it becomes remains to be seen, but the Hurricane Hunter aircraft will be going out and investigating things later on today, and we'll let you know. But there could be some fast organization in the Gulf of Mexico. We'll keep you posted. Eastern Pacific, fairly quiet, although some development here south of Baja California. And out in the Western Pacific, we've been watching Typhoon Rex, which appeared to be ready to head in towards Tokyo initially, but now the change in track, as you can see, takes it well east of the island of Japan. So some good news there. Back to the States. Sliver of dry air in here. Got some jet stream winds, which are now affecting Danielle off the east coast, curving it to the north. High pressure for a nice day in the Great Lakes. High pressure in the south, for that matter, but it's a warm, muggy, typical late summer tropical type air mass. Showers and storms this morning. There are a few in the northeast. As we head out of the satellite, you can see some clouds over Massachusetts and Connecticut, eastern New York, where we have some rain now in the Mohawk and upper Hudson Valley. 74 in New York City, 77 in Tampa this morning. Southern weather map, fairly quiet. That we're watching Danielle, and we're watching low pressure forming in the Gulf of Mexico and a lot of moisture, which could result in popcorn storms again later today. Stay with us for your local forecast as we look at some nice weather in the Great Lakes.
All this atmospheric energy coming together.
Drama, passion, suspense, tropospheric undulations. Every night on Weather Center PM.
This program was sponsored by Pella Windows and Doors. Pella, viewed to be the best.
Boy, come on, we gotta go. Take the screen off.
The screen's stuck.
Hey! You stay away from here! Lori! Stuck! Bella! Bella! Bella!
Only Pella Windows offers the built-in roll screen, so you'll never have to hassle with your...
Thunderstorms are nearing St. Louis at this hour, and we have flood watches in effect for the southwestern portion of the country. We'll have details on this coming up in just a few moments. But first, we want to look at our tropical update, and joining us with that is our hurricane expert, John Hope.
And thank you, Kristen. We're going to begin with Danielle, which is very close to the United States. And right away, though, I want to tell you that we don't consider it any threat. It's already turned toward the north, a little bit east to north, I think, and we expect it to curve away from the United States. Now, it's only about 400 miles, say, away from Charleston and Wilmington, Cape Hatteras, but nevertheless, we think the only effect on the mainland is going to be high surf, and of course that high surf has already been generated. It's a good thing too, because now this is up to a Category 2 hurricane. Top winds are up to 100 miles an hour. We think it'll get stronger still as time goes by, and moving, as you see here, toward the north, and again we expect it to recurve towards the northeast and move away from the U.S. Also, we think it's going to pass far enough west of Bermuda So the Bermuda will not have a direct impact either. So if you're going out in that direction, don't think you have to worry very much about Hurricane Danielle. So the morning satellite picture, visible picture, a beautifully formed hurricane now, and eye clearly discernible right here, again moving towards the north or a little bit to the northeast. So once again, some high surf coming into the east coast of the U.S., and that's about it from Danielle. So now we're going to shift our attention to the Gulf of Mexico, where we're a little bit concerned about what we see happening in the Gulf. We do have, we believe, a surface low developing out here in the southwest Gulf. That's about 350 miles or 40 miles perhaps from Brownsville, Texas, and about 550 from New Orleans. We expect this to gradually move toward the north. Reconnaissance aircraft will go out there, check it out this afternoon, and see whether or not we have a tropical depression. We think that we will have a tropical depression, and a good possibility, we believe also, that this could evolve into a tropical storm as time goes by. We do not expect it to move very rapidly, so you folks up here in the Gulf Coast, say from New Orleans over through the Florida Panhandle, might want to watch this rather carefully, and we'll certainly keep you up to date. It looks like it could have a couple of days before we would have to worry, at least 2 days before we'd have to worry about any direct impact. Now, we can show you on the colorized satellite picture, right down in here is where the low center seems to be developing. Very heavy thunderstorms and showers that moved up through the central Gulf. Those are moving towards the northeast. That's not the low center up there. I know that looks kind of scary, but there are some pretty heavy thunderstorms, so we'll have to watch and see whether they might have impact on the Gulf Coast or not. If the hurricane becomes named, it'll be the 5th one of the Atlantic season. The name is going to be Earl. Now, apart from that, we have a couple of other features we want to mention. One is a tropical wave out here east of the islands, about 600-700 miles, and that shows a little bit of spin there, but not any deep clouds, heavy showers, or anything around the center. Also, another disturbance in the Gulf, or in the Caribbean, to the south-southeast of Puerto Rico. That's moving off toward the west, and we're still seeing our array of disturbances coming off the coast of Africa. Here's one that came off yesterday, and we have another one about to emerge up there tonight or tomorrow. Also, we want to show you that off the Pacific coast of Mexico, down here southwest of Baja California, a very concentrated area of showers. We think that'll be a tropical depression, but if this does become one, it's going to move toward the west, away from the U.S. mainland. And folks in the West Pacific are glad to see that Typhoon Rex is now moving eastward, away from Japan, not going to have any direct impact on there either. So that's the tropics now, and here's Christian. She's got some flood watches to talk about in the southwest, I believe.
That's right, John, and we are seeing some rain coming down in the southwest, in and around Prescott, Arizona, and also Flagstaff reporting some moderate rain. You are under a flash flood watch in northern Arizona, as well as in southern Nevada, and also in southern portions of California, as we have an upper level low that is spinning here, causing the rain to come down for today. We will see that be a little bit more numerous through the afternoon hours. Our warm front is now moving through St. Louis, and that is triggering some stronger storms in Quincy, Illinois. Those storms are heading towards St. Louis, so watch out for the development of more lightning for you, as well as some heavy downpours. Here's where the rain is at this time, as it's beginning to exit the northeast and popping up in Texas. Stay with us.
Showers spring up in some areas of the country, but the Southern California coast stays clear and hot. These and other weather stories on Weather Center after your local forecast.
Storm Earl.
You're just in time for Storm Watch here on the Weather Channel on a day when we find some isolated severe thunderstorms firing up from northeast Florida to southern California and up to Minnesota. But Of great interest at this point is the newly developed tropical storm in the southern Gulf of Mexico. And here with the very latest on that in our tropical update is the Weather Channel's Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thank you, Dan. And let's get right to the latest information here on this tropical storm Earl. As of 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, here's the center of the circulation, just to get you familiar with where we are. New Orleans up here, Galveston, Houston area over here, and of course Florida over this way. 22.5 north latitude, 93.9 west longitude. That's about 560 miles to the south-southwest of New Orleans. It's about 560 miles distance there. It's moving north at 5 miles per hour. Now, of course, if it continued on that track at that speed, it would take a long, long time to get there, almost on the order of 100 hours. But we expect this to speed up as it moves toward the north. Now, here's the circulation that you can see here, and it's a very broad one, sort of an oval-shaped center, and right now the circulation center is roughly in here. Now, there's a lot of thunderstorm activity to the north of it, and that's going to affect the Gulf Coast, primarily in the New Orleans area, greater Louisiana area here in the next 24 hours. But the circulation will not get to the coast for a long time. If it continues on its current track, we're talking about maybe a 48-hour traverse to the coastline. You can see, though, that on the infrared satellite imagery, we have some very big thunderstorm areas here. Now, the good thing about this is none of the big thunderstorm areas are near where we think the circulation center is, which is roughly in this area right here. And this is not an eye by any means. This is still a very poorly organized tropical storm at this stage. So we're in pretty good shape with this right now. But everybody really from Brownsville all the way over to below Tampa should be keeping a very close eye on this the next 24 to 36 hours and prepared to take action if in fact you need to do that. But the general trend is toward the north and then a little more toward the northeast, accelerating and becoming a minimal hurricane. It's 48 to 72 hours, but we'll have to see whether or not that pans out. It's very early in the development stages of this system, but the upper air environment does seem to be rather favorable. Now, Hurricane Danielle, there is some good news for that for you along the east coast here. It's already beginning to move toward the northeast, currently at 30.5 north, 73.6 west. This is at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Wind still 100 miles per hour, and it looks really like what we consider, at least over ocean, like a beautiful hurricane, as long as it doesn't get anywhere near land. But you can see an eastward component now, which is very good, north-northeast at 10 miles per hour. And you can see that motion here. This is a close-up version of it, and of course the U.S. coast is off toward the northwest there, and so it's moving really toward the northeast, and it should accelerate rather rapidly. In other words, increase in forward speed toward the northeast. It will pass to the north of Bermuda, and that should bring some gusty winds and some heavy surf to Bermuda, but it will not directly landfall Bermuda at this time. It'll be well to the north of them. So that's good news. It will go out to sea and not affect anybody directly. Now, elsewhere in the tropical Atlantic, we've been watching a tropical wave out here, rather large, ill-defined system in the stratocumulus and showers here, moving toward the islands, Windward Islands right in here, Puerto Rico up in here. And you'll get some showers out of this, but no real development over the last 12 hours to speak of. We saw some big areas of thunderstorms coming off the coast. Little pulse of thunderstorm left. We'll keep an eye on that little tropical wave for you there, but not much going on there. Now in the Pacific, we only have one area of disturbed weather here, and that's this area. And we expect this to become a tropical depression fairly quickly. It's fairly well organized and just sitting there with deep thunderstorm activity over the top of it. Now, we've been showing you Hurricane Rex, and it had come up and threatened Tokyo up in here and made a turn back toward the east and now is heading back toward the southeast. A somewhat unusual track, but keep in mind there are a lot of islands out in here, so if you're vacationing on those islands, you need to pay attention to which way Rex is going, generally on a southeasterly direction. Well, let's get back to Dan and see what he's got going on weather-wise across the United States.
And we take a look at the current U.S. map, and the map is going to show us that we have across portions of the southeast, showers and thunderstorms firing up. In some cases, they're quite strong. In fact, there have been special marine warnings in effect along the South Carolina coast from Cape Romaine on toward Charleston Harbor and also around Tampa Bay. Potential exists for some isolated severe storms over portions of the Plain States. Stay with us for Weather Center coming up next.
We're keeping a close eye on the tropics where things are brewing in the Gulf, and Danielle is changing course. The details plus a look at your weather just ahead on Weather Center.
Off. The screen's stuck. Hey! You stay away from here! Lori! Stuck!
Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Christina Abernathy. We've got some wet weather and even some storms to tell you about in parts of the upper Midwest and the Southwest. We'll have more on that coming up in just a moment. But first, it's time for our tropical update. Let's take a look. The very latest on Tropical Storm Earl. The latest coordinates as of 10 p.m. Central Time have Earl centered at 22.3 north, 93.7 west. That puts the center about 570 miles south-southwest of New Orleans. The winds are 40 miles per hour. It's not moving much, nearly stationary, although we do think it will perhaps begin a more northerly trek as we head into your Tuesday. The pressure 1,002 millibars. So here's the satellite view, and again, it's still fairly disorganized at this point. We do think that it will become better organized. There's at least that possibility. The center of circulation somewhere in this general vicinity. Again, it's a bit difficult to determine from the satellite view because it is, again, rather disorganized. But we're going to continue to watch it here. And again, there is the potential that it could become better organized and strengthen. Again, we think it will eventually start moving to the north again and maybe gradually take a turn more towards the north-northeast or northeast. So again, at this point, it is certainly something we're watching very closely, and certainly something you should watch very closely if you live along the Gulf Coast. If you have interest along the Gulf Coast, you will certainly want to keep a real close eye on Earl. Something else to mention, we have coastal flood watches in effect here from the lower Atchafalaya River here all the way over to Waveland, Mississippi. So look out. We will see, again, the chance for some coastal flooding with those the water piling up a bit here with those winds out of this general direction. So that's something to keep in mind here. We also are anticipating the possibility of some hefty amounts of rain. So for that reason, flash flood watches are in effect parts of Louisiana and into southern Mississippi. So there are a number of concerns here, and we can already see some of the wet weather here coming into radar range. Now there's certainly more wet weather to the south, but it is not within radar range, so it's not picking it up. And we are probably seeing some pretty heavy rain right here, although maybe not so evident on the radar. Nevertheless, we are anticipating that wet weather here. So watch out for this. And again, all eyes are on Earl, and we will continue to keep you updated. Interest in the Gulf Coast will certainly want to keep a real close eye on this as we head through time. As we head into tomorrow, again, you'll want to check back in with us. We'll keep you posted. Hurricane Danielle, not quite as interested in this. It has begun to move off to the north-northeast. That's good news. That's what we wanted to see, moving away from the U.S. Centered now at 31.5 north, 73 west. That puts the center about 495 miles west of Bermuda. The winds 100 miles per hour. The pressure 973 millibars. And again, we're going to continue to watch this too, but the good news is that north-northeastward movement, maybe some heavy surf along parts of the east coast, and certainly some heavy surf a possibility for Bermuda. So that's going to be a concern, but again, we like to see that north-northeastward movement away from the U.S. Also watching a couple of tropical waves, one in the east central Caribbean, another here east of the Lesser Antilles. We'll continue to watch those. Right now, not looking terribly impressive, but we'll continue to monitor them. And again, one more perspective here on Tropical Storm Earl in the Gulf. As we head out in the Atlantic off the west coast of Africa, continuing to watch these waves come off the west coast, and we'll watch those as they move through the Atlantic. Again, not looking terribly impressive right now. We'll monitor those, and also in the Pacific, monitoring an area of disturbed weather here south of Baja, California. That certainly interests there. We'll want to keep an eye on as well. And one final tropical stop takes us into the western Pacific with Typhoon Rex, which is moving away from Japan. That's good news there, but there are still some islands out here that would want to monitor Typhoon Rex very closely. Well, that's it for the tropics. Let's take a quick look at the rain and the storms in the U.S. We've still got that in the southeast and the southwest. Some of these have been a bit rough, and here with this front, there's the potential for strong and even severe storms here And certainly in the southwest, we've had reports of wind damage and reports of very heavy amounts of rain. So still watching that here in Southern California, the rain and the storms. A close-up perspective shows a little more in detail who exactly is getting the wet weather. So we'll be watching this, and you'll certainly want to remain alert.
Premature to put much faith in.